Okay, it's once again time to just talk to you people. One more time. The 24th time, in fact. My name is Phil, and you're listening to The Lip. Alright, it's just talking number 24. Episode 259? Yeah, episode 259. Just talking. Wow. It's getting more and more interesting because next week's episode is 260. I always keep talking about this the last couple of episodes. Man, episode 260 is a big deal. Because that means that I've been talking to you for 5 years as of next week. 5 years. 260 consecutive episodes. I haven't taken a break. I have given you new content every single week. I've, in fact, made some of the episodes longer as the show's evolved. And I think I'm having a fun time doing it. So I can promise you that it's a safe bet that there will be a 261st episode. Let's just say that I think that I'm still having fun. And as a result of that, being an audience of one, as I like to say, I think that I'm going to continue to do this for the foreseeable future. And unfortunately, as we all know, we really can't foresee the future because one of my words of wisdom that I used a couple of years ago at this point now was that I would have told you this was going to happen, but my crystal ball was in the shop. So I couldn't really tell you just how long I'm going to do this. Nobody ever knows how long they're going to do anything, right? That's just the way it is. But this is a just talking episode. I'm excited about that because, well, I've got a lot of things that I've seen that I want to talk about. And that's what's crazy about these episodes. Probably one of my favorite parts of these episodes was, for those of you who haven't listened to the show before, my original intent for just talking was to just sit literally here in my office and just sort of talk about the stuff that was on my mind. And then, you know what happens when you start having a creative process? You then start thinking to yourself, well, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about that. And eventually, you start to realize that you have a lot of things that you want to talk about just at random. And when that happens, you're like, whoa, wow, I don't want to not talk about it. So what I have to do is do the smart thing and just sort of write down the thing that I want to talk about. Thus, this last probably, I don't know, 15 just talking episodes. After that, I mean, really, that sounds about right. Just talking 15, maybe even as early as just talking 11. I started to realize that, yeah, I'm starting to stockpile these things that I want to talk about. And the best way I can make sure that I don't forget it is to write it down because there's going to be some time in between just talking episodes. I mean, for example, right now, this is just talking 24, and just talking 23 was a couple months ago. So right away, there's a whole bunch of stories that I had in my head that probably wouldn't have been on this episode had I not written them down when I was preparing for just talking 23. Thus, on that same note, just looking at the notes that I had prior, things that I'm going to be talking about for just talking number 25 is stuff that's overlapped from this episode. So realistically, the just talking format that I have, it really it kind of rolls over from one episode to the next now because admittedly there's probably about anywhere between 3, sometimes 4 extra things that are in my mind that I wanted to talk about on a particular episode, but because of the time that I want to have the show go on, I don't want everybody to have to sit here and listen to me drone on and on and on. when I could use it for another episode and get your full attention once again. And that's the idea. I want to make sure that you enjoy what you've got, you hear it, you like it, and you're ready to come back for the next one. So, what I do is essentially I just put that other stuff, I pack it away, I file it away, and I wait for the next one. So, I can promise you that the things that I'm going to talk about here in Just Talking 24, some of it probably came from as late as maybe even Just Talking 22 that I just didn't get to, or things I found more interesting that I wanted to talk to because something was more current that happened. And that's another reason why some of the Just Talking episodes sometimes have changed things that I want to talk about, because sometimes something could have just happened the day as I'm recording. For example, right now it's actually May 3rd, 2026, and this episode isn't going to be heard by any of you until a minimum of May 9th, 2026. So sometimes something could have happened the day of or a day before that I find very, very interesting, knowing that I'm going to do a Just Talking episode. And well, I have to look at the stuff that I was about to talk about and sort of reformat it a little bit. But that's fine. That just makes life a little more interesting because it keeps me on my toes. And like I said, it provides me with more content for the next episode. And on that note, I'm going to ring the bell and we're going to start Just Talking number 24. All right. Where are we going here? Let's see. I'm going to start with this one because, man, if I forget this, I might not do it later on. And I don't want to forget it because I think it's something that's really cool, at least to me personally. As you can see, I'm wearing the Dr. Pepper hoodie, and I've worn it probably the last couple episodes that I've been doing because, well, I just like this thing. But more so, I like Dr. Pepper. And as a direct result of that, it turns out that I have a few flavors of Dr. Pepper that I'm really, 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 really high on. Obviously, the original is great, but probably, how long ago was it? When I was becoming really, really dialed in on my workouts as I was preparing for becoming a corrections officer, they had come out with Cherry Dr. Pepper at that point. That was like 2016 or 2017, and I was drinking way too much of this stuff. Now, since I no longer work as a corrections officer due to my injury and retirement, I will partake in Dr. Pepper a little more regularly, but not anywhere near as much as I did before. As a result, it turns out that during that time between me really dialing in and not drinking soda and my injury where I started drinking it again, there was a significant period where Cherry Dr. Pepper sort of fell out of favor, for lack of a better term, because prior to my corrections officer training and working out, they would sell Cherry Dr. Pepper in 2-liter bottles, like all the time. You could find 12 packs everywhere. You go into a store like Wawa or like 7-Eleven, and you would find Cherry Dr. Pepper in their cooler case. You could just grab one, the 20 ounces. They would be right there. But fast forward to 2024, 2025, Cherry Dr. Pepper started to get a little bit scarce. I mean, really scarce. 2-liter bottle of Cherry Dr. Pepper, I hadn't seen one from that point in time in like 2 years. And it's insane. it's at least been 2 years around that point. So I guess, yeah, 2024, I guess it had been like 2 years since I had seen one. And I was thinking to myself, well, I want to get some. I love this stuff. Definitely want to drink some more. So I kept looking for it, and occasionally I'd find a 20-ounce bottle and I'd get it. But then it started to even disappear from those. And now, only place I could find it was in 12 packs. But these 12 packs were in one very specific store, just Acme, near my house. Only place I could find 12 packs of Cherry Dr. Pepper. And so I try to get 1 month and hang on to it and drink it rather slowly. And then I discovered something. A thought happened to pop into my mind about the Cherry Dr. Pepper. Alright, I'm getting these 12 packs of Cherry Dr. Pepper once a month, but there's something weird going on with it. Something really weird. When I went to the Acme to pick up the Cherry Dr. Pepper, there'd usually be 4 12 packs, and I wouldn't think anything of it. Then a month would go by, 2 months would go by, 3 months. 2025 started disappearing, and I started noticing that every time I go to Acme to get a Cherry Dr. Pepper 12 pack, there's never more than 4. Ever. And at that point, I started buying 2 because there's only 4 total. If I don't get an extra one the next month, they might not have any. And sure enough, I believe it was in June of 2025, I think it was, where I went in there and they didn't have any. And I got a little nervous. Now, granted, I had also been drinking the Blackberry Dr. Pepper, which is outstanding. But at the same time, you could get that at Wawa. They still have it now. I could go walk out to the Wawa right now and get a 20-ounce Blackberry Dr. Pepper like that. No big deal. It's in there. But they also had the 12 packs at the Acme. And I would get one of those to substitute for the cherry, which wasn't there for that 1 month. Then, fortunately, they came back, and there was again only 4 12 packs. And I was just mesmerized how it seemed like every month there was only 4 12 packs. There wasn't 5, there wasn't 3. When I would go, there would always be 4. And one time, I'm sorry, I know it's upsetting, and I know somebody is probably really upset with me to this day. In 2025, I went there to go get a 12 pack of Cherry Dr. Pepper, and there was only one. And I was like, this isn't good. So I grabbed that one, and I left. And then the next month, I came back, and there wasn't any again. And I was literally losing my mind. And then it occurred to me, what do I do sometimes when I was looking for a cereal box and I wasn't sure if I had it? Sometimes I'd put it behind other stuff. And when I do that, I would then come back later that day or even a couple days later, and I would go back to where I put it, and it would be there waiting for me. So in my mind, I was like, I wonder if somebody hid the Cherry Dr. Pepper so they can come back and get it later. It's worth a thought. So what I did is I looked around in the soda section where they had some strawberry and cream Dr. Pepper and some diet Dr. Pepper. And wouldn't you know what I found? Hiding behind the diet Dr. Pepper. Somebody, probably an employee, slid a 12 pack of Cherry Dr. Pepper behind the diet Dr. Pepper with hopes that nobody was going to go after the diet Dr. Pepper and their Cherry Dr. Pepper would be there waiting for them. Ah, right. That's exactly what somebody did. And what did I do? Like a vulture on a dead animal, I swooped down, I grabbed that cherry Dr. Pepper, took it to the register, got out of there with it. Now, I think it was probably somebody who was extraordinarily excited about seeing the cherry Dr. Pepper being there, and they couldn't wait because, like, oh, we got it, it's mine, it's finally here. We're super excited about it, and oh, I'm so happy. And then all of a sudden, me coming around there saying, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take it. And I did. But I understand why they've been limited to four cherry Dr. Peppers, but I don't understand why they limited themselves to four. It's like anything. Whenever I was like when I was in management at Wawa, we would count all the product when we were doing our inventory, so we would know how much to order. So it was a simple calculus, you could say. Um, you have so many items you bring in, so many items move off the shelf because those items are the amount that people wanted to buy. And sometimes you'd have leftovers. Now, what you want to do is you want to find the number that'll keep some on the shelf, but it'll be enough for the people who buy it regularly to still come in and get it. Now, if it was my personal thought process for this cherry Dr. Pepper would be that they assumed that they were going to sell about three. Just my guess. Because they figure they would sell three, so they would make sure they maintained four to guarantee that the person or people or myself who came in to get the cherry Dr. Pepper would still be able to get it. Meanwhile, they wouldn't have more than what they wanted on the shelf. So they would literally be able to rotate their inventory on a regular basis. That's my assumption, is that what they did. They figured four was the magic number. And, well, it seems to work just fine. In fact, I guess it was last month when I went to go get some cherry Dr. Pepper. The funniest part about it was the people at the Acme when I went to go bring it up didn't even know that it existed. And I was like, what? You didn't know this stuff existed? It's been around about 10 years at this point. But you didn't know it existed because partially you can't really buy the bottles anymore anywhere, and their store is like the only place that has it, and they only have a limited amount. So I guess I can understand them not knowing it was there because it kind of hid, and that's kind of a cool thing, I guess. But I'll be happy as long as they're consistent with the cherry Dr. Pepper. But if not, there's always blackberry, which is just as good, if not maybe a little bit better. Now, am I going to get up and show you this? I think I have them in the right spot, so bear with me. I'm not going far. I'm just going to stand up and I'm going to find something because this is something I definitely wanted to talk about because it's really cool. At least I thought it's cool. Let's see. Let's see. I should have thought of this before. Let's see. Yeah. Got them. These are one of my personal treasures. And they're going to end up being just that. A treasure that I'm going to hold because they no longer have any use anymore, unfortunately. The Andros on 69th Street, right up the road from the 69th Street station. Absolutely one of my favorite pizza places. when I was complaining about how pizza was not very good in the city of Philadelphia, technically speaking, I don't believe that Leandro's is actually in Philadelphia. But these are some of my favorite things. And what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's the magic number. I don't know if you can read this, but I'm trying to make it so that you can. I hope you can see them. What it says is it's a coupon from Leandro's Pizza Box. Now, the purpose of these coupons, if you can read it, it says save 10 for one free pizza. Here's 10. These are my last 10 Leandro's coupons. And I've had these since 2019, just before we moved and just before the pandemic. And my goodness. In fact, I've had them before that. I actually had them in. We moved in 2019, and I got the last coupon before we moved in June, I believe it was, just after my birthday. It wasn't long after my birthday, so I think it was in June. And well, I got the last coupons here. These things are really cool because you had to go and you had to eat, or well, I ate most of the pizzas that those coupons came from. Now, of course, I would go and get pizza for everybody, but of course, I would personally eat my own pie. Out of those 10 coupons, it's really safe to say that I personally ate 6 of those pizzas, maybe 7 of them in its entirety, whereas the kids and the wife would have eaten the other 3, and like to get the 10, probably about that ratio. And I was collecting these coupons ever since I discovered that they were doing it. And I discovered they were doing these coupons sometime around, when was it that I figured out they were doing this? 2011, I guess it was. Early 2010, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so, to make a long story short, I probably ate 5 or 6 free pizzas. Now, to put that in perspective, that means if I ate 5 to 6 free pizzas, that means that I would have had to have ordered 50 to 60 pizzas from this place. 50 to 60 pizzas from this place. Now, just to give you an idea of how insane that is, everybody knows that there are 52 weeks in a year. Now, if you consider that, that would have been me essentially eating one pizza every week for an entire year, and then some, because, like I said, it's very possible that I had 60, just as possible as it was 50, because I know I definitely had 5 free ones, and there's a potential that there was 6. In fact, it was 6, because I was so happy when I got the final coupon that I got from there, so that I would end up having my 7th free pizza from there, which would have meant that I would have had to have consumed very nearly, like I said, between the kids They had some. The wife, she had some. That means that I, out of those 70 pizzas, I would have had to have consumed, because I would eat the entire thing, personally over 50. And that seems like it's probably more, because at that point in time the kids were really small and they were eating like one slice, maybe a slice and a half at a time. So the three of them weren't going to eat an entire pizza. So it's safe to say that I probably ate about 60 of those 70 pizzas in order to get the free pizzas, because these were the last 10 that I had in their entirety from there. And I forgot about these for a couple years until probably February of 2026, when it dawned on me that I was looking through some stuff in my office, and I looked and I discovered that I still had these, and I got super excited, and I'm like, oh man, look at this! I have enough to go get another free pizza. All I got to do is consider when I'm going to be down that direction again, and as soon as I am, whew, I'm going to go cash these suckers in like the Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania. That's what my plan is going to be. And then it happened. I had a doctor's appointment, and that doctor's appointment took me in the direction of this beautiful place so that I could potentially access my free pizza. I got there, I parked, I went in, and then I heard one of the most heartbreaking and devastating things. I was told that they no longer accept the coupons for the free pizza anymore. Just completely devastated. Heartbroken to think that I had these for probably, at this point, 6 years, maybe even 7, because when I consider 2019, it might have been the time where I would have been able to cash them in, because I can assume that perhaps after the COVID year of 2020, that's very possibly when they stopped doing the free pizza thing, because I would just keep eating it and keep getting all these free ones. So they're probably like, we need to stop that. But like I said, it was February-ish of this year, and I went and I was like, "Can I get? Do you still do the free pizzas?" And they told me, "No, we don't do coupon for the free pizza." I hung my head. A small tear went down my cheek, and I thought to myself, "Well, give me 3 anyway. 3 plain slices." I grabbed my 3 plain slices. I enjoyed them on the way home, but sadly, my coupons are no longer valid. As a direct result, well, what I've got is the memory of what could have been another free pizza. One of the most sad endings. But it was a lot of fun when it lasted, right? Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, that one. Let's see. This is what I'm talking about, man. There's a lot of these things that were like extra topics that I had that were ready to go, because there's just so many little nuances. Let's Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. It's the free pizza. All right, here we go. Some insane parking space nonsense. I don't know why I ever go to Walmart anymore. Because it just appears as if nothing good ever happens when I go to Walmart. Because I don't understand. I don't understand people. This could very easily have been in What Do We Do an episode. But we're going to have one of those later in the month. And those are some extreme people. Just as bad as this one. Everybody's been to not forget that it's Walmart. It could be anywhere. But you've been to a parking space in any store that you've gone to, and there's been a cart in the parking space. Sometimes you have to stop your car because it's a good space and you're already committed and you've already made the turn. So you're 3/4 of the way, halfway into the parking space. So you gotta stop what you're doing. You gotta get out of your car and you gotta move the cart out of the way so you can get into the parking space the rest of the way. Now, I had parked in a spot. I was in my way. There was a parking space, and there was a cart that was in space. I had stopped. I moved the cart into a position where it was kind of in between my space and another space, but there's enough room where you could have gotten through and you could have parked there. Now, another car with two ladies pulled up a space away from where I was parked. So there was my space, an empty parking space, and then that's where they decided to pull in and park. Now, they were on their way to parking as I had gotten out of the car and moved the cart that was in front of my car, and I put it in the space between the two of us. But there was some room between my car and that empty space, so there was no reason for them not to have parked where they did. They had no issues, no big deal, and I could fit in, no big deal. And where I positioned the cart, somebody else could have parked there without having an issue from that shopping cart that I had just moved. I go to get back in my car after I move the shopping cart. And the lady who was in the passenger seat of the other car gets out, takes a shopping cart that was in the way of her car, and now puts it directly in front of my car after I just moved the cart out of my way, and they watched me do it. They watched me do it. They literally saw me get out of my car because they had pulled in after I had stopped to get out of my car to move the cart. They watched me do this. They watched it happen. And this lady goes and she puts the cart in front of my car just as I'm about to pull up into the space. I have no reaction at all. I can't speak at this point because the level of stupidity that I'm looking at is just, it's mind-blowing. It's heartbreaking and it's completely devastating. I don't know what to do. I have lost all willpower. Like, if I had a Green Lantern power ring, I wouldn't be able to create anything because I had no will left at this point. The only thing I could do was I turned my head in the direction of the lady who just pulled the cart in front of my car. I tilted my head just a little bit, She then looked at what she had done. It took probably what felt like a week for the information to go from her eyes, from what she was seeing, into her brain so that she could process what was happening. And then she was like, "Oh, let me move this out of your way." She didn't say it, but she physically grabbed the cart and she moved it out of the way. And then she proceeded to say the next dumb thing. It would have been so much better had she just not spoken at all. Because the late great Gorilla Monsoon said, "You should keep your mouth shut so people won't know how stupid you are." Unfortunately, this lady couldn't help but talk. And what she did was she looked at me after she moved the cart out of the way and she said, "You're welcome." You're welcome? Let me see if I can explain this to you again. I was getting ready to park. I saw a cart in my way. I got out of my car. I moved the cart in a position where it would be out of my way and out of everybody's way. These other people who had pulled up 2 spaces to my left saw me move the cart. The one lady goes and takes another car and puts it directly in front of my car, so I can't park. Then she moves that cart after I gave her a look of complete confusion as to what she had done. And then she didn't say, "I'm sorry for doing that." She said, "You're welcome." As if she did me a favor. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't understand. I just don't. Like, it's like, I don't understand. I can't understand. And I won't understand what that was about. Like, it's impossible. Totally impossible. Just, I don't know. God's special people, I guess. I don't know. But I then pulled up in the spot. I got out of the car. I started walking. Sure enough, these very same people were walking very, very slowly to get into the Walmart. And for some reason, they did one of the other things that just makes me turn into the Red Hulk. Like, they got into the store and they stopped directly in front of the door. Like, you can't make it up. Like, why? That's all I can say is why. And again, words couldn't come out of my mouth. I couldn't process myself what was happening. It just was unreal. It just, it was like, this is really not happening because there's no way that this could happen. But yeah, it did. It really did. And the only thing I could do at that point was just grin and bear it because it made no sense at all. None. Like, I'm still right now thinking about this from a few days. At this point, it's been a couple of months that this happened, and I don't get it in any way. I don't get it. Like, the only thing that pops in my mind is who does this? Who does this? Like, seriously, who does this? Why is this a thing? Like, like I don't understand. I don't understand. And I never will. Period. End of story. I never will understand why that happened. Oh man, never will I understand. And the only thing that I'll get for trying to understand is a headache. So I'm gonna not do it. I'm just not gonna. All right, here comes another fun one to just talk about. I almost could have put this under one of the other episodes that I hadn't done in quite a while, a Connect the Dots episode. Somewhat conspiracy theory based. And that's what makes this part so much fun. By now, everybody who listens to this show, who's listened to it on a relatively consistent basis, knows that I am a 49ers fan. And the 49ers, since 2011, have had a really interesting roller coaster of an existence. I mean, Jim Harbaugh got there and they got to 3 NFC championships in the Super Bowl. Then there was a lull for about 6 years until Kyle Shanahan got there and they started going back to the Super Bowl again. Really deep in the playoffs, AFC or rather NFC championship games. But during that time span, something very interesting happened. They built a new stadium, Levi Stadium. Great looking place, magnificent building. Really is. One day I hope to get there because it just looks like a fun place to watch a football game. However, during that time, since they built the new stadium, they have a very high percentage of soft tissue injuries. In fact, if memory serves me correct, well, let's not guess. I'm almost 100% certain, but let's be 100% certain. That's the best way to do it. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah. Since Levi Stadium opened in 2024, says ChatGPT, the 49ers have had one of the highest rates of injuries in the entire NFL. It's insane. And there have been so many. And they've been soft tissue injuries, which have literally thrown the team into a sense of turmoil. It's horrible. Ayuk tore his ACL. Lots of hamstring pulls. Achilles tendon tears from both in the Super Bowl from Dre Greenlaw, and then in the playoffs just recently, George Kittle, Nick Bosa tore his ACL twice, Mikhail Williams this year tore his ACL. There's a lot of injuries that have happened since the stadium has opened. And the thing that makes it so devastating and crazy is the theory of why all these injuries are happening. Now, this is where it gets a little tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. It turns out that outside the 49ers practice facility is an electrical substation. And there were some theories that radiation from the electrical substation weakens soft tissues and makes them more prone to injury. Now, there have been a couple of studies that have debunked this fact. But you gotta wonder just a little bit, right? I do, because I have a very interesting thought process behind this. And it goes not even as far as the soft tissue injuries that have happened to the 49ers because they practice next to an electrical substation. It turns out that very near my kid's school, not even very near, it's right next to my kid's school, is an electrical substation. Now, I am going somewhere with this. It turns out that when I have to go pick them up from school, and I've been doing this for the last 4 years, I've been picking them up from this school. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4 years. Or is it 3? Let me think, because my youngest, Maggie, she went to a smaller school, not the school with the electrical substation, from kindergarten. So, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and kindergarten was at home. That was 2 years. And then the older one went to school at that place from the time she was in there. So go back one to first grade. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3. So first grade, second grade. So it's been 4 or 5 years that I've had to go to the school to pick up the kids. Now, the way the car line goes in the morning is there's one lane, everybody drops their kid off and they go. In the afternoon, to pick the kids up, there's 4 lanes. And what happens is you have to wait for your kid to come in order to leave. It doesn't make any sense to go there and just say, here's the name, give me a kid, and they leave. Sometimes it takes a kid a little bit longer to leave from where they are to get to your car. And what I've been doing for the last 4 years or so is I turned a corner from the car line to the side of the school. Not just any side, but the side that is across probably no more than 30 feet from the electrical substation. And sometimes, in order to wait for the kids who are coming out, I've had to wait 10 minutes, 15 sometimes, next to the electrical substation. And I would probably have to do this 3 times a week, where I have to pull off to the side in front of the electrical substation and wait. And I've been doing that for 4 years. Now, you're probably really sick of me talking about the fact that I tore my bicep in 2024. That whole year prior to that and the year before that, I was still parking in front of the electrical substation. makes me personally wonder if there is something to the electrical substation and these soft tissue injuries. I mean, Nick Bosa tore his ACL, and Brock Purdy tore his. He had that horrible injury when he destroyed his, I think it was UCL in his elbow. But it's a soft tissue injury, and he was practicing next to the electrical substation. Now, I was parked next to the electrical substation, and then all of a sudden, I tear my bicep. Hmm. Is there any dot to connect there? Does the electrical substation actually emit some sort of energy that weakens soft tissues? Because more and more I thought about it after the people were talking about all these injuries the 49ers are getting because of the electrical substation biome, really made me think to myself, it's like, wait a minute. I park right next to an electrical substation, and I got a soft tissue injury. Hmm. Some could say, well, you were throwing shot put and discus for years, and you played football and wrestled and did all those things that would eventually wear your joints down, and you were 46 at the time, so it's like, well, maybe the wear and tear finally got to you. But is there a correlation? Would, let's say, if the kids went to a different school, would I have, where I wouldn't be having to sit in front of the electrical substation, would I have had the issue with the bicep? Would it have been more sturdy? Or is it because of the electrical substation that was emitting some sort of weird energy, and it put me in the position to where I went to go try to move the couch a little bit, where it snapped my bicep? I mean, Drake Greenlaw had been practicing for several years out there and had no issues, and then all of a sudden, well, I can't say he had no issues. That's the funny part. He was very injury prone. He had a lot of small injuries here and there, and then at the Super Bowl, bang, there goes his Achilles tendon. George Kittle, he was having some calf injuries prior to the playoffs, and then bang, there goes his Achilles tendon. I don't know. I'd like to think that there is no correlation between the soft tissue injuries and the electrical substation, and I'd like to think that it's just dumb luck that the 49ers got hurt like that all year long and for the last 5, 6 years. With a lot of these injuries, Christian McCaffrey and Big Trent Williams, and the list goes on and on with soft tissue injuries. And then, as they say, I'm not in San Francisco. I'm not near their electrical substation. I'm next to a different electrical substation, about 3,000 miles away. But for an extended period of time, I've had to wait by that electrical substation for, like I said, anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes a day for about 3, 4 days a week for somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 years. Did that have an effect? Did it have an effect? I'm just really curious. Like I said, there was research done that said that there's no correlation, but there's just some part of me that wonders, just a little bit, if maybe there is. And we just don't know it, even with the research that was done. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I do know that I had quite a bit of time with rehab, and I wasn't real happy about it. It wasn't a lot of fun. Neither was the surgery. I'll tell you what, that nerve block, that certainly made the surgery a lot easier. But I'll leave it there. I'll let you think about that. What do you think? Do you think that there is some sort of thing with the electrical substations? Because now, like I said, I had a weird situation, and I thought about it after a little while. That, like I said, I mean, originally I wasn't really paying any attention to any of it until the people started talking about it in San Francisco, and then it was maybe months after that when I started really thinking about what was happening to me. And then I was like, man, I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking even one of my kids' friends had a broken arm. She's right there by the electrical substation every day. I don't know. I don't know. I'll leave it there. And like I said, it might be a fun Google to look up. But I will say this. I think I've talked enough about that and enough about a lot of things today, so I'm going to ring the bell and we're going to end the main event. Well, now that the main event is over and the bell has been rung, I do believe that it's time to talk about the Spear of the Week. And, well, there's only one person that could be the Spear of the Week. The lady who told me that I was welcome. She said, "You're welcome," after pulling the cart that she put in front of my car out of the way. I don't understand. I don't. And again, like I said, I'm not even going to try to understand. I'm not going to pretend to understand. It's just something that I don't know. It doesn't make any sense in any way. And I'm going to just leave it at that. It didn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It won't make any sense. But the Spear of the Week is a lady who literally put the cart in front of my car after I moved one. Ugh, just why? Why? Mm. Now, let's go to some fun stuff, shall we? Let's see if we can find a really good question that maybe I can answer. What do these three things have in common, and can I figure it out? Let's see. Hmm. Let's see. That one's too easy, so I'm not going to go there. I think I'm going to answer this one. Three things that have something in common: a garden vegetable, a rude child, and a rested horse. No, what is it? Rested horses. Garden vegetable, a rude child, and rested horses. Hmm. Let's think about this a minute. Garden vegetable, rude child. Okay. That doesn't really work. But maybe. What's the difference between a root child and a garden vegetable? When I think of root child and garden vegetable, what are two things? What can they have in common? And my thought process originally is the root child could be spoiled as a vegetable, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. A rested horse. Rested horses are spoiled? No, it doesn't make any sense. But that's the only thing that makes any sense to me. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but garden vegetables spoil, rude child spoiled, rested horse. I don't know. Usually my technique is to try to get two of them and see if I can get two of them to make sense. And that kind of makes sense to me. But this other one, like I said, it's not as hard, it's not as easy as this one here. This one's like this one on this other one here are really easy. I mean, Shadow, Bare Knuckle, and Olympic, those are obviously boxing. And apple cider, white wine, and white distilled are all vinegars. Those ones were easy. But let me make sure I'm right. And yeah, I'm right. So those were all super easy. But this one makes me wonder. Garden vegetable, a rude child, and rested horses. The only thing that I can think of is they're all spoiled, but I don't see how that spoiled goes into a rested horse. I don't know. They're not spoiled. They're the opposite of spoiled. They're fresh. Garden vegetables, fresh. Rested horse, not spoiled, but they're ready to run. They're healthy. They're ready to go. They're fresh. And obviously, a spoiled child is fresh. That one I did not get. But I was moving towards the right direction, but not quite. I was in the reverse. You figure fresh vegetables are good things, spoiled vegetables are bad things, and I figured that the rude child was spoiled as opposed to fresh. And if I had gotten that together, I'd have gotten it. But as I say, like any sport or anything like that, you can't win them all. And in that case, I did not. But now let's answer one of these questions real quick, shall we? Let's see what we got here. Ha! This is a good one. And I have two that it could very easily be. But it's very specific. The question is, what is your favorite movie quote? And it's pretty obvious to me that I have two that are so good to me that I love so much. And I think that it's obvious I can't possibly pick which one of them is my favorite. I don't know which one's my favorite between the two, but they're probably 1 and 1A. 1 and 1A. The movie Snatch is probably my favorite movie of all time. Brad Pitt, Vinnie Jones, Jason Statham, love that movie, and it's one of my favorite quotes of all time from a movie, and it's great. It really is. The quote is, "Never underestimate the predictability of stupidity. That is just a great quote. Never underestimate the predictability of stupidity. And trust me when I tell you, it is very predictable when you're dealing with stupidity. And it's a shock when you underestimate it because you can't. You really can't. The only other quote that I think that would be its equal or close to it is Darth Vader in Episode 4, where of Star Wars, which is A New Hope, the first actual film made. Darth Vader is talking to one of the Imperial commanders, and he says, let me get the quote right in my head. You've put too much faith in this mechanical marvel that you've constructed. The ability to destroy an entire planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force. Darth Vader and Vinnie Jones, two of the greatest quotes of all the quotes in any movie that I like. And I'm telling you, I have a lot of movie quotes that I like a lot, but there are very few that I like more than those two. Particularly what almost could be words of wisdom. Never underestimate the predictability of stupidity. That just, every time I watch that movie, and I have to watch that movie at least once, maybe twice a year, because I have a very difficult time laughing when it comes to movies. There's not a lot of movies that make me laugh, and there's not a lot of things that make me laugh, but when something does, and it really does, I can't get away from it. Like, and I'm telling you, that movie, Snatch, that movie makes me laugh every time. Every time. And my goodness, I can't help it. Gotta love it. So that's definitely the answer to the question of what my favorite movie quote is. Like I said, it's the two of them because I love Star Wars and I love Snatch, and that quote in Snatch and that quote in Star Wars, those are gotta be my favorite quotes. They are. Alrighty. Now that we've done the question and we've found out what three things have in common, I believe we've just about outdone our welcome here. I think we've almost overdone our welcome, and I think that it's time to begin to shut down the show. I'm loving it. I think it was a fun show, and I was able to get through all the stuff that I wanted to get through. There is no overhang, but I had overhang. I had so much that when it comes to Just Talking 25, I still have stuff that was backlogged so far that it's gonna still roll into Just Talking 25. I just so happen to have cut down Just Talking 24 enough that I was able to make a show out of it and still have more material to do Just Talking 25. Now, what I do every time, and I'm going to continue to do it, is check me out on Instagram at Philip Henderson 5102, and join us. Join us on our Facebook group. Join us. As you hear this, it'll be episode 259. We're nearing 100 people joining our lit Facebook group. There's always room for one more. We're not going to want to stop at 100, of course. There's plenty of room. But it'd be nice to get there before it goes out. Now, it's time for the words of wisdom. And I can honestly say that these words of wisdom are very much just me sort of ranting about that lady with that shopping cart still. I can be patient with ignorant people, but I cannot and will not tolerate stupidity. I can be patient with ignorant people, but I cannot and will not tolerate stupidity. I can't have it around me. I just can't. It's one thing, like I said, to be ignorant. You just don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. And granted, some of the best people that I know are the people who know what they don't know, which is a good thing. Because if you know what you don't know, you then have an opportunity to learn what you don't know, or you can have somebody who knows what you don't know and can help you do it. But just flat out, just stupidity. Ugh. I've said it 1,000 times. There was a show, not a, that I did many years ago. At this point, I think it might have been among the first shows I did, where I talked about a story of this incident where my cousins and a bunch of friends who were all brothers of all things, right? We're in a car, we're driving down the road, coming back from a movie or a Great Adventure. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the two, either a movie or a Great Adventure. Most likely it was Great Adventure. No one knows. Who knows? But the one brother said the dumbest thing that has ever been spoken in the English language or any language of all time. And you're talking about two 20 somethings, early 20 somethings, two 18-year olds, and two like 16-year olds, all in one vehicle, talking loudly, and that comment was made. And it was so dumb, so the stupidest thing that anybody could ever say, that a car with those young people in it became completely silent. Completely silent. And when asked what was said, at this point it's been well over 20 years, nobody can remember what it was. Because it was so dumb and it was so bad that it was lost forever. And I can honestly say that every single human being on Earth is better for the fact that none of us can remember what was said, because if we were to utter those words, it would probably cause some sort of weird seismic shift in the universe, and we would not be able to exist as a people. Like, the entire Earth would crack like an egg, and like we would all die of some horrible cataclysm because of that statement was so bad that nobody should ever, ever, ever hear it again. That was so funny when I think about it now, but it was really stupid. But now we're going to do something smart and remind you that, hey, my name is Phil, and you've just listened to The Lip. Next week, 5-year anniversary show.